It is a singing competition show, but it is for singer-songwriters, and it really digs into the songwriting process. So it's got some sort of key differences. One being that it's a podcast. You won't see what these people look like, which is kind of amazing. And we haven't seen them either. So there's that, and there's also the another part that I love is it's not elimination based. So we're not following like sort of
Like week
siphoning
by
off
week, yeah.
contestants week by week. We get to listen to everybody go through the whole process, which is really great. In terms of really like learning nuts and bolts of songwriting, I think is a pretty crucial piece of this show.
I think it's a great sort of equalizing force for, I don't know if we really notice how much judgment we put on the visual, and we sort of think that we like or dislike someone based on, visual cues. We make judgments, and we, have preferences, and so taking that out of the equation really opens up just this other space to experience. And we've been talking so much about how intimate the process feels because it's right there in your ears. It's like unfolding like a little movie in your mind. And you sort of, every time, I mean, we know this from theater, every time you invite the audience into the process with their imagination, they feel closer to the process. So I think that that is a huge component of this, where you build out the world, and we don't know what the world looks like yet. So I mean, I'm excited for that part of the discovery as well. The contestants were sort of all over, and Kelly and I were on opposite sides of the country. I was in New York, she's in LA. We would Zoom. So I would see Kelly and she would see me. We did not see, and we would see our producers on the Zoom call. But we never saw any of the contestants, and they could see us, but they've already seen us. Check out the internet.
Yeah. And then my process is as like sort of liaison between audience and this process. So actually I'm hearing everybody and not seeing anybody. I know what they look like. But yeah, and sort of trying to kind of in real time take those experiences of what I'm listening to and fill in the gaps. Here's like there's a lot of practical elements, here's what's happening next, and there's also a fair amount of like creative like I'm genuinely so interested, and we've been taping a lot of my actual responses to it as it goes, just as also as audience member. I'm like an audience member who they gave a mic to.
I love anything that kind of invites you into process. And this really pulls back the curtain on that. And I think we got to have some really frank conversations about the nuts and bolts of putting a song together, and why certain recordings pop, and why, even helping the artists sort of find the places within themselves that were the shiniest. And it was always where they were most authentic, where they were most vulnerable, where they were being the most courageous with sharing the most about themselves. But I always love that. I mean, I don't know how you feel about process is so interesting to me, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot in this for artists of all kinds, but if you're an aspiring whatever singer, performer, writer, like they're because of all the process stuff, and you are listening to choices get made, and that is so fascinating to me, both like based on feedback, but the artists are ultimately going back there and making all their own choices. And so that part is also really wonderful to sort of hear the decision that this is what I'm doing now is like it's very inspirational, because a lot of us, and particularly early on, I think you struggle a lot with the paralysis of not being able to make a choice. So having to watch all of these people struggle through that moment and then ultimately make a choice is pretty cool.
And it's making me think of a couple of like some double down moments where they would get feedback, sort of pushing them in another direction, and them saying like, no, this is where I'm going. And you have to respect that, and we've all received feedback, critical feedback along, our career paths. And there's sometimes where you're like, I know you think that, and this is what I know is right for me. And that's also just an interesting place to meet an artist in.
Yeah, those moments are particularly cool to listen to.
Okay, cool. Don't take my advice.
It's gonna be cool. Hallie's anyway. Y'all gonna see it. I'm not gonna I got to like be in the studio with her recording, and also like watch her develop that role, and just like it's a game changer.
We all feel so grateful because, we're so lucky we got our first swing on Peacock, and they were huge supporters. And now to get this sort of like second life on Netflix, and to have even a wider audience just feels like, we get a third second chance.